today I'm going to be sharing 5 of some of my family's all-time favorite casseroles with you. And these casseroles are extra special because they only have about 5 ingredients in them, not including seasonings. And I like cooking with minimal ingredients just because most of the time the ingredients are cheaper that way, and it is quite a bit quick and easier to make dinner. So I hope you enjoy it, and let's get started. Okay, you guys, this first recipe might surprise you just a little bit. We are making this wrapped chicken with a rich and creamy sauce. It is just so amazing. I started out by unrolling an 8-ounce can of crescent dough. This is just a crescent dough sheet. And I did pull that dough just a little bit so the dough was thinner. I'm slicing the dough into strips just like this right now. You'll see why I'm doing that here in a moment. But after I was through slicing the dough, I set it to the side. I have a pound of chicken right here. I did slice the chicken into thinner strips. I'm seasoning the chicken on both sides with a dash of Italian seasoning, pepper, and salt. You could, of course, always use more chicken or less chicken depending on how many people you are feeding for this recipe. Now we're going to wrap the chicken up, so grab a piece of your chicken and wrap it in one of the crescent dough sheets and then place it into a greased 9x13 baking dish. Do this with all of your chicken pieces. It really is pretty easy. Now that we have wrapped up all of our chicken, just sprinkle about 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese on the top. Bake this in a preheated oven to 375 degrees for about 30 minutes. While this is baking away, we are going to start on the sauce. So to a pot on the stove, add in about 1.5 cups of heavy cream. Next, 1/4 cup of sun-dried tomatoes, and if you're not a sun-dried tomato fan, you could just leave those out. Then about a teaspoon of Italian seasoning, dash of pepper and salt. Give this a really good whisk and bring this up to a simmer. Once this does start to simmer, you're going to want to add in about 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese. Let the cheese melt down, and then once the cheese is nice and melty, this sauce is done. That's really all you have to do with it. It really is so simple. Here's the chicken out of the oven. Once the chicken's cooked through and the crescent is nice and golden brown, all you have to do is drizzle the top of the crescent with some of that sauce. This recipe is so good. I can't even explain it to you. You really need to give this one a try. I think you will love it. My daughter loves this white chicken spinach lasagna so much, so now that's what we're making. I'm starting out by spraying an 8x8 baking dish with nonstick spray. Next, you're going to add in some of this 22-ounce jar of Alfredo sauce. We'll use all of it for this recipe, but just a little bit for now. I spread it out to the bottom of my baking dish, and now we're going to add about 3 lasagna noodles down. I did have to break the lasagna noodles just a little bit, and I am using the oven-ready lasagna noodles, but if you wanted to boil regular lasagna noodles and then add those, you certainly can. Next, I have 2 cups of chicken total. This is cooked shredded chicken. I added some of that down, and then I added a cup of fresh chopped spinach over the chicken, then 1/2 cup of shredded mozzarella cheese. Next, I added more of that Alfredo sauce, and then I just repeated this for a second layer. And if you're wondering how I cooked my chicken up, I just cooked mine up in the Instant Pot. I seasoned it with a little bit of Italian seasoning and salt and pepper and just chopped it up from there. But the last thing you are going to be doing is topping this with the cheese, of course. Cover this with aluminum foil, and this will bake in a preheated oven to 350 degrees for about 35 to 45 minutes. Once out of the oven, you will remove the foil and then bake this for an additional 15 minutes. I know most of the time lasagna is not easy to make at all. A lot of the recipes are just super complicated, but that's why I like making this white chicken lasagna for my family, just because it's so easy to throw together. My entire family loves it and gets seconds. I serve this alongside of a side salad. Now we're making this chicken cordon bleu casserole, and woohoo, let me tell you, this is not your boring type of casserole at all. None of these are. To begin, to this medium-sized bowl, I added in a 10-ounce can of cream of chicken soup. Next, add in about a third a cup of water and whisk this all together. This will kind of form a sauce. I'll set this mixture to the side. I pulled out my 9x13 baking dish and I sprayed it with nonstick spray. I added in 4 cups of cooked shredded chicken. I just cooked my chicken up in the Instant Pot, then shredded it from there. Now I'm going to be adding some slices of ham on top. This is just sliced deli ham, but you could really use any type of ham you like. You could even use like cubed ham, but I just used Black Forest ham. Over the ham, add slices of Swiss cheese, and then over the Swiss cheese, you are going to pour the sauce that we made up with the cream of chicken soup over that. The last couple things we will do is first add a box of stuffing mix to the top. I'm just using the stovetop chicken flavor. This will add a really nice crunch, you gotta trust me. And then over the stuffing mix, you'll just add a third a cup of melted butter. Cover this with aluminum foil and bake this in a preheated oven to 350 degrees for about 40 minutes. After 40 minutes of baking, you will just pull this out of the oven, remove the foil, and let this continue to bake for an additional 20 minutes. We like to serve this over a bed of white rice, but you could serve this over egg noodles or mashed potatoes, really anything you'd like. I also serve this with steamed peas on the side, but seriously, you guys, you need to give this recipe a try. I know this one might seem a little bit different and odd, but just trust me, you will devour this like I do. These Philly cheesesteak casserole sandwiches are so good. My husband requested I make a huge batch, so I did. I started out by dicing 1 green bell pepper, a red bell pepper, and a yellow onion into small pieces. I set these vegetables to the side. We're going to work on the ground beef now. Into this big pan, I'm adding 2 pounds of ground beef. If you wanted to make a half batch of this, you certainly can. I'm just breaking the ground beef up, and I'm cooking it until it's about 50% of the way cooked through. So not completely cooked through, and I just removed some of the grease in the pan. Now I'm adding in the peppers and the onion that we cut up earlier. I'm just cooking the ground beef through at this point. Then I realized I forgot to add in my steak seasoning, so I'm adding a tablespoon of that steak seasoning in now. Just cook the ground beef until it is no longer pink. I'm going to add in about 6 ounces of cubed cream cheese. Stir that cream cheese in and let it melt down and get incorporated in. After I placed the Philly cheesesteak casserole in my 9x13 baking dish, I spread it out as even as possible. Then I added slices of provolone cheese over the top. This baked in a preheated oven to 350 degrees for about 25 minutes to melt the cheese down. Once it was nice and melty, I placed it in hoagie rolls, and I did butter and toast the hoagie rolls over the stove before I placed the filling in there. But this is one of those meals that my husband could eat every single day and not get tired of it. He just loves it that much. This one is one of my favorites. Now we're making this French onion chicken. To begin, we are going to slice our large yellow onion into smaller pieces. Over to the pan on my stove, I'm adding in 2 tablespoons of butter. Once it's good and melty, I added our onion in there. We're going to kind of caramelize the onion, just cook it on a lower heat for about 8-ish minutes until it is a nice golden brown color. Then you will want to remove it to a plate and set this plate to the side. In the same pan we cooked the onion in, we are going to sear our chicken. So I have 2 large chicken breasts right here. I seasoned them on each side with a dash of paprika, salt, and pepper. Just sear the chicken on a higher heat for about 2 minutes on each side, so we're not completely cooking the chicken through at this point. Once it's through searing, add the cooked onion in there along with a can of French onion soup. You're going to let this simmer for around 5 minutes. This is going to reduce the liquid down and make the sauce a little bit thicker. Now we're going to add it into a greased casserole dish. Just add the chicken and the sauce and the onions right in there. Just dump it in, go at it. And then over the top, you're going to add some mozzarella cheese. I added about 3/4 cup of that. And I did try a new type of mozzarella cheese today. It was this creamy melt Philadelphia one, and it was a lot creamier, so I did like it and I do recommend it. This baked on 350 degrees for about 25 to 30 minutes or until the chicken was cooked through. We served this dinner over mashed potatoes, and we poured some of the gravy that was in the casserole dish over the mashed potatoes. I also served this with steamed Brussels sprouts, but let me tell you, when I tell you that I love a meal, I mean it, and this has to be one of my all-time favorite dinners. I know this is a bold statement to make, but this is phenomenal. You don't want to miss the next video, so make sure you're subscribed. I'll see you there. Bye for now.